How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with Mark Stiles of Stiles Law and your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Hey, welcome back. It's me and Dr. Joe right here live on WATD 95.9. How are you, Dr. Joe?
Good, Mark Stiles of Stiles Law, the current me of Dr. Joe, and then we have guests as well who are also
and the audience, you,
and
the listener.
Audience. You're right. I just want to give credit to Mark for that. So, how did you come up with the new branding of our show?
It was our CMO, our marketing officer, said, you know what, this would be a lot of fun if we included the guests and the audience and everybody together as part of the show, right?
Yeah, it's so, I really like it. As opposed to, all about me, which has never really been my thing, as you know.
Correct.
But I'm curious. You've got an event coming up September 12th. I wanted to just
we do.
Right to that. Can you talk about that for a moment? Because this is huge, folks. So those who are listening, if you're in the area, you got to come check this out.
Yeah, and those who are a fan of Dr. Joe, absolutely, you do not want to miss this, because this is kicking off a TED Talk style for Dr. Joe. So the I Am, you've been listening to the I Am approach, and you've been hearing all about Dr. Joe and who we are and why we do what we do. And we're going to do this live on stage right here on the South Shore at Levitate Backyard. And he's going to be kicking off an amazing day of learning down there at Levitate. And you can still get tickets. You could still come and join us. And it would be an amazing opportunity to hear Dr. Joe live on the South Shore.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
Yeah.
Here I am at a conference and in my hotel room. And
what was that?
I think it was, I don't know. It was not well timed, though. I think
we didn't actually hear. We just saw your reactions. So I'm fascinated.
Good. I shouldn't have said anything then. It was you didn't hear the doorbell ringing?
No.
Oh, lovely. Live.
That's what live is.
Live is live.
But to get back, but I'm not the only speaker. You want to just
so it's going to be so what we've created
what the
here.
Theme is. What's the theme, Mark?
The theme is navigating change, Dr. Joe, and that's why I want you kicking it off to help people understand that the one constant in life is change, and to lean into it and open up that comfort zone, if you will, and learn how to walk through that path, that journey of change, and not to deny it, right? Because a lot of folks tend to deny change and they resist it, but maybe we experiment with it before we learn to adapt to it. And part of that is the psychology of it. Am I ready for this? How do I get ready for this? And some strategies and tactics around working through that. And that's why I want you kicking it off. It is something that I'm doing that's helping me expand my comfort zone. I've never created a live event before. And, it really started with a lot of the turmoil in the real estate industry. And I thought, how can we help folks, right? Because there's going to be a lot of anxiety around what's going on there. And how can I help, right? How can I bring some of these really, really knowledgeable folks together to help with that transition and help with some ideas on how to work through, and not today, not tomorrow, but for their careers, for looking forward. Like, how can we really analyze this closely and know that status quo, the way it's always been, isn't the way it's always going to be. And how do we react to that? Who are we, and how can we do it?
It's going to be a great event, folks. September 12th starts at what time? 4:00.
So no, you're
I
going
just
on
want
before that.
No, I had to say that so that he could correct me, so that the audience will now pay attention.
Yes. No, so we're having
psych trick,
the doors open. The doors open at 2:30. You can meet our sponsors, because you can't do anything without sponsors, Dr. Joe. We have Richardson Insurance is going to be there talking about home, auto, and umbrella insurance, which is really important to understand umbrella insurance. We're going to have folks talking about real estate investing.
Wait, umbrella insurance, is that you need that for a rainy day? Is that right?
No. Yes,
sorry.
and it's an umbrella that covers over on top of everything else. So really, what umbrella insurance does is it's a really, really powerful insurance policy. Probably the best bang for your buck when it comes to any sort of asset protection. So they're going to be there. We're going to have RF Boston there, who's a creative lender for real estate investors, because we're also bringing Leader Bank there to talk about 1031 exchanges for real estate investors. And this is good for a lot of people who are thinking about getting involved in real estate investing. And of course, for our real estate professionals to help them navigate with working with these folks. And then we're going to have the Fidelity National Title Insurance Company will be there, bringing in one of their keynote speakers who travels all over the United States talking to real estate agents and real estate attorneys about certain strategies of how to be authentic in a digital world and how to have real impact in these relationship businesses. So for anybody who's in a relationship business, there is something to learn here. And again, I want to highlight Dr. Joe, who's going to be kicking it off to start everything going with the value, respect, trust, transparency. How do we move forward and remain authentic?
Yeah.
And that is the IM approach, right?
It is seeing that we're all doing the best we can. Talking about changes, it reminds me when I was in my early 20s, I wrote a lot of songs, and one of the songs was called Don't Be Sad. And the chorus was, changes come to pass. That's the only thing that lasts.
Oh.
Take a look. You got the choice. So you better take the chance and don't be sad. Because think about it. Change is permanent in the sense that not that things don't change, but that's what evolution is. That's what adaptation is. We are always changing. And that's what the IM is saying. Here's how we change in response to these 4 domains. You do get to choose, but you're not going to be able to make a choice if you don't know why it's happening. How are you meant to change something if you don't know why it's happening? So I am so honored to be sort of kicking things off for you, Mark, because it really is. It is about change. And there's a lot of change going on right now in the real estate world.
Well, there's a lot of change going on in the world, right?
Yes.
It's an election year, which is always, an avenue for change. But, people are leaving their jobs. People are moving to other locations. People are retiring. People are experiencing loss.
I've never heard that word before. Did you say retiring? What is that? You're going to have to come back to that one and tell me about that a bit more later. But go on, they're experiencing loss as well.
Experiencing loss. Change is all around, and how we deal with it really affects how we feel.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you can resist it, you can fear it, you can deny it, or you can embrace it. Right? The situation has no emotion. It's how we react to the situation. And, it's important to me to help people understand that and put the folks, source those resources, those experts in those fields, and bring them to the community to help with what is inevitable. And that's what we're going to do on September 12th. And I'm really excited about it.
Me too. And it is, embracing change. That's really so important. And what I would like to do is embrace the change of talking and going instead to a commercial break, because I would like to embrace the changes that our sponsors bring to all of us and how they can also help us feel a lot more secure. So with that in mind, we'll take a commercial break. Then we'll come back with Dr. Joe Show, and Mark's going to introduce our guest. We'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show. Me and Dr. Joe.
Hey folks, thank you for listening to the Dr. Joe Show. We've been investigating whether or not we want to bring sponsors into our podcast. What are your thoughts? Do you know somebody who might be a good partner with the Dr. Joe Show, who may want to align their product or service with the Dr. Joe Show? Think about it. And we're back with me and Dr. Joe, right here on WATD 95.9. Your South Shore radio for everything.
Everything.
And best radio station.
We were talking about change. We were talking about embracing change. And I think there could not be a better segue to our guest with that. So could you please introduce our guest for tonight?
I would be honored, Dr. Joe. Tonight's guest is a licensed clinical social worker and the author of 13 books. That's right, 13 books.
13 books.
Most recently, the poetry collection entitled Older, Wiser, Shorter: The Truth and Humor of Life After 65. Jane Seskin has appeared in more than 40 publications, including Cosmopolitan, Women's Day, New York Times, and Women's Older Wisdom. Her nonfiction has been anthologized in Chicken Soup for the Soul, Get Out of Your Comfort Zone. She's been nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Jane has been a writer in residence at the Vermont Studio Center and Hope Center for Literary Arts. Miss Seskin is a psychotherapist. For 20 years, she counseled survivors in individual and group treatment at the Crime Victims Treatment Center in New York City. In her free time, she enjoys the theater, walking by the Hudson River, visiting with friends, reading poetry and mysteries, and listening to jazz. Give her a piece of bread and butter, and she's a happy camper. Welcome to the show, Jane Seskin.
Thank you. Thank you, Lawyer Mark. I appreciate that. And Dr. Joe, I'm really delighted to be here.
And we are so glad to have you here, Jane. Thank you so much. Off air, we were talking so much about your current book, the poetry book, but 13 books? When did you start this journey?
Well, the interesting thing is no one told me I couldn't. So I did. I wrote. And to me, I was in the right place at the right time.
Wait. Was that a pun? That was a pun.
Yes, it was.
Very nice. Nicely done. Okay. Nicely done.
So I did this for 15 years. And I was on a book tour in Miami on a radio call-in show. And someone asked what they could do about their life. They had a situation. And I told them, being this great observer of life, I leave next city to the airport, and I think to myself, shame on you. You have no business telling anyone what to do. You're a writer, for God's sakes. I mean, come on, Jane, get real here. I got home. I was thinking about it because I had written maybe 9 books at that point and 6 weeks to do an article. And I thought, I want to go and learn how to do this. I had one group interview at Hunter, and these 20-year-olds were saying what they were going to save. And when it came to my turn, I said, I want to save 1 block on the Upper West Side. And I am sure that answer got me into social work school, where for 2 years, it was the best of times and the worst of times. It was so different. I was 38 and I was a student again, and in a day treatment program for chronic schizophrenics, and then the following year in an analytic institute. So I had both experiences. So I am grateful that since retiring, I've been writing again. And I love to write because it is me witnessing the moments in my life, the moments that I have as I am growing older, and how I am seeing what I can do and what I can't do. But how do I take what I can do and make something out of that? You asked before if I would read a poem, and I would like to begin by that. It's the poem called Accommodation. 6 days after 9/11, I worked on New York City's West Side Pier, counseling survivors and family members anxious for information. Trips to New Orleans and Katrina and Duluth for DV training solidified social work interventions. 16 years later, the call for clinicians to provide help for victims of Hurricane Harvey came to me across the internet. I paused, got up from the computer, walked around my living room, put on a Chris Bodie CD, and sighed because I knew in that deep moment of knowing that I could no longer jump on a plane to help another city. Too old. And so doing not what I wished I could, but what was needed, I researched Houston charities and took out my credit card. That is that deep knowledge that you know what you once were able to do as a younger person, I could no longer do. And in aging, I've created this 3-step approach, which is acknowledgement, accommodation, and acceptance. The acknowledgement in this poem was about, okay, here's the situation, Jane. Can you do it? The accommodation was no, kiddo, you can't do it. You're just not able to do it. So what can you do? Because isn't that really what we're talking about? What can we do? And the acceptance was, I could do something, not really what I wanted to do, but I could do something. I could make some kind of an impact. And so that really became my kind of go-to idea. Here's the situation. What can I do? And can I accept that as part of my being at this moment in time? So,
yeah, it's that of the three A's, was there one that was more difficult than the other for you? Was acceptance, acknowledgement?
That's interesting. It is. I think it was the accommodation, because then I could get to acceptance. The accommodation is, here's a problem. I'm someone who, I was in Berkeley in the 60s. I'm someone who is prone to action when I see things that I don't feel are right. So since that was taken away from me because of my physicality, I had to come to some kind of accommodation where I felt I was going to be useful. I think that is the hardest thing to get to. You know, it is, I have arthritic fingers. Now everybody in Boston, Massachusetts knows I have arthritic fingers through your show. Okay.
No, more than
so
Boston.
What do I do about it? What? All of?
No, more than Boston. The entire world now knows.
More than Boston? Oh, okay. Well, now everybody knows I have arthritic fingers. Okay. That is the acknowledgement. The question is, I'm a writer. I use my fingers. What am I going to do about it? Okay. What do we learn? We do exercises. We get a cortisone shot. We get these implements that make it easier for you to write. You use the phone. You make notes on the phone. And you accept that this is a part of life. This is a part of me growing older and accommodating to a physical change in my life. So it's a good question, which is harder. This is like chicken and the egg. Which is harder, accommodation or acceptance, or to be able to say, I'm still doing it. I'm just doing it differently.
Yeah. I mean, this story, 30 years ago or so, I would not be able to pull out a credit card to offer something. I would be there first because I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have any credit, you know?
Yes.
So to be able to build on what we have, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, we had a guest on our show who quoted what was it? Life is short, but it's the longest thing you'll do. You know, life is short, but it's the longest thing you'll do. So because Mark, we've got these, 10, 15 year differences between us, which is lovely. Mark is still, I hate to say it, is still growing up in that way. Of course, we all are. But I remember when I turned 50, somebody said to me, look, it's not the end, but you can see it from here. So it's like, like, thanks. So my goal in life is to stay old as long as I can. So that's one of my new goals, So of the poems, what was the process for you writing these poems? Because there's so much, there's so many memories that come forth, and there's so many poignant moments, and then to put it into poetry, just so folks know, poetry is a very different writing than prose narrative, because you have to be more precise. And so I also need to be precise, if you don't mind. And the precision that I have is being able to anticipate when our sponsors need to tell us their poetry. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hear the poems of our poets, and then we'll be right back with Jane Seskin and the Me and Dr. Joe show. Be right back.
Hey folks, welcome back. So any thoughts? Do you listen to other podcasts? Do you see how they do the sponsors? Is there a way that they're utilizing sponsors that you enjoy or you don't enjoy? I listen to SmartList, and I really enjoy how the co-hosts share the voiceover for the product or service. It's really funny for the most part, but it's unique. It's them really endorsing. Does that work? What do you think? We're back. Me and Dr. Joe and Jane Seskin, author extraordinaire from Manhattan, New York City. Here we go.
Come on back in, Jane. Let's hear a poem. How about
okay? Thank you. The poem is I Know I'm Older because I wear my glasses to shop the supermarket. The mail carrier calls me kiddo. I'm angry at the airbrushed covers of AARP magazine. The new coffee mugs are chosen for weight, not design. I sometimes take the disabled ramp rather than the stairs. All the TV anchors are younger than I. Bathroom locations are researched before starting a trip. I may say what a couple of times in conversation. Benadryl is used for sleep instead of for allergies. Yeah. And the waitress asks me, what will we have for lunch? I answer, I'm not sure what you'll have, but I'll have the Cobb salad. So this is one way where aging is infantilized. We are not a we. I can order for myself. And this is really, it's small, but it's a small moment, and small moments to me count.
Yeah.
And they would with you also, Dr. Joe, because of what you're talking about in terms of change.
Yes.
And when Mark talked about difference,
Yes.
these are the tiny moments that mean something to people. It is like when an older person goes to the emergency room with their aide and the doctor is speaking to the aide.
Yeah.
Not to the older person. So this, I think, is more prevalent than we know.
Mm. Yeah. And I think
and
it
it's
crosses...
about writing poetry. It's about observation. I'm sorry.
No. And I mean, what you're talking about it crosses all ethnic barriers. I mean, this is ageism, where somehow we are perceived as different. And I'd like to think that people are being more respectful to me when they, open the door. But it's like, thank you. I can still do that, but I appreciate it. But do you find that somehow people are perceiving you? Because you talk about a lot about being seen, but are we being seen for who we are, or for what people sort of imagine our life must be like because we're older? What do you think?
Yeah. I am delighted. I'm delighted to be blondie when I had blonde hair. But now that I'm salt and pepper, no one is calling me, hey, salt and pepper, hey, cutie. No, that's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But the being seen, that's a very good point. The being seen, I think I'm going to reframe that as respect, that they are being respectful of perhaps someone older in their life who they know, who they are respectful of. I am respectful of the bus driver who lowers the step when I get on the bus.
Yeah.
So, to me, it is those little things, and it is observation. You asked before about the poetry. The poetry to me is about observation. It is about looking. I look very finely in the world. It's how I witness my world and my days. And it's also willing and wanting to say the things that people are not saying about aging. That to me is the important thing.
Mm. And what do you think those things are?
Don't not like this.
And
what they're not saying?
Yes. What are they not saying, Jane?
Okay. So, they're not saying, I'm going to read. May I read?
Please.
No, please read, Jane. Okay. They're not saying a poem called Going Out. I leave the house, even though my hair looks thinner. My pants are too big and sag in the tush. I have a pimple. What? I have a pimple on my chin. And oh dear, my lips are chapped. I push through my inner critic, determined to still go out, still engage in life, because my option to stay in and hide does not define nor exist for me. So to me, it is about feeling the feelings, and in spite of the feelings, maybe I'm not going to allow that to keep me in my house because I'm not at what I consider the best for me. So I'll be the best tomorrow. It's okay. Good enough is good enough. It's okay. I wish we all gave more permission to ourselves in terms of just being in the world and just being with people and with ourselves.
Yeah, there's so much criticism from the outside, but that self-critic is perhaps even more powerful. And it's a response because we worry that other people will view us and judge us as less valuable. And I think is that part of what we experience as we age, the worry that other people will see us with less value?
I think it could be that, but it also could be as we age, we can give ourselves permission to be who we are,
Yeah.
more of whom we are. And that could be such a wonderful kind of freedom. I mean, I think to myself as I'm walking down the street, I have very loose associations with my id. My id is talking to myself and it's saying like, that man shouldn't be on his phone. That bicycle rider shouldn't be doing this. That woman needs a bra. I mean, come on. So in some way, I'm loosening associations, but I'm also saying, I think to myself, it's okay, Jane. It's okay. They are choosing how to live their life. You are choosing how to live yours. You don't walk down the phone. Don't walk down the phone. I don't walk down the street with the phone. I don't. I prefer to see what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
You know, to look at someone's bow tie and say, hey, to say, acknowledge out loud, I love the tie. To say, I love your jacket. To be in the world and in community with others.
Yeah.
That's the way I would like to age. And I am aging.
Mark, what do you think about this? Let me bring you in, because you are a keen observer of humanity in the world. Do you think that there is, as Jane is just doing, normalizing aging, are older people seen somehow as, less capable, or do they look to us for wisdom, or it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to tolerate this old guy?
It's such a deep and interesting conversation because, in your present, you're thinking about it a lot more than somebody who's not there, right? So,
right.
As you're experiencing it, you're investigating further into it where, we may not be, and I'm not suggesting I'm not old, because if I'm to look at someone who's 25, they're certainly looking at me as though I'm old. But again, where are they in their life's journey, right? So they are more than likely walking down the street looking at their phone. And that is their normalcy. That is the social norms currently at that generation. I hope that our society looks to our elders with respect and honor, as they've earned. Do people look at them as infirmed and a burden? I don't think so. But who am I? I'm one person who's thinking from my own perspective. I love older people. I love sitting with them and listening to their stories and sponging up all of the wisdom that they have, and learn from them each and every time. So I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself. I don't really know how to answer that question, Dr. Joe.
Just from yourself. I mean, I don't think there is. I mean, this is a discussion because I for my last birthday, I got Medicare Part A. I mean, that was my big present, right? Just turned 65. My birthday present was Medicare A. Thank you, folks. But it is fascinating as we begin to recognize, for me, the betrayal that I had of my body for years, and yet focusing on learning and helping other people, and what our job, Jane, and Mark's too, is a lot more sedentary than many other folks. Mine, it's sedentary. I mean, I sit and I listen.
Yeah.
And yet, I feel as I age that I'm learning all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm building on things that I've experienced before, not looking back with regrets, but saying, how do I use what I've got to anticipate what will happen next and be able to then use that older knowledge to help others. And what I can absolutely anticipate happening next is that our sponsors are going to tell us a little bit about their worlds. And so with that anticipation, we will take a commercial break. We'll be back with Jane Seskin. We'll be talking about the normalization of aging. But first, let's hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back with me and Dr. Joe and Jane.
Hey, welcome back. And again, we're super grateful for you listening to the Dr. Joe Show. If you have anyone that you think might be a good sponsor, shoot us an email at drjoepodcast@gmail.com. DRJOE podcast@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts about the show, too. We're wondering, are we talking to the trees or are people really gaining value in this? Please let us know. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of the show. And we're back. It's me and Dr. Joe. It's you and Dr. Joe. And it's Jane Seskin and Dr. Joe right here live on WATD 95.9, your South Shore everything.
Yeah, everything. And don't forget, September 12th, folks, if you're around in Marshfield, come over to Levitate so you can hear some pretty cool stuff about the world of real estate, but also about change. And speaking of change, Jane, we're talking about a lot of stuff, but I just want to bring it back into the I am just for a moment. If you remember, the I am is saying we're always doing the best we can. This is your current maximum potential, but we are responding to an influence by 4 domains. Your home domain, no one's going to argue your home has had an influence on who you are. The social domain, which is the rest of the world, these 2 domains are outside. And then the 2 internal domains of your biological domain of your brain and body, and then the I see domain, the way I see myself, the way I think other people see me. Because these 4 domains interact, the first truth of the I am, small changes can have big effects. We don't need to change everything. Make a small change in any domain can have a big effect. So with that, what small change can you recommend to our listeners, given what we're talking about tonight?
I would recommend everyone saying hello when they leave the house. I would want people to say hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I would want them to see other. And for that, we talked earlier a little bit about respect. That is about being seen. That is not being invisible. Someone sees you and they've greeted you. And to be greeted, I think, is a very important construct. You're seen, you're respected. So that is something that I think is important. And I also think to find out for each of us what it is that comforts us. To me, it is about when the sky is falling, what is it that's going to help me keep myself stable? For me, it would be listening to some jazz. It would be listening to Vitamin String Quartet. It would be eating sourdough bread and butter. It would be putting on a green chenille robe. It would be, these are things that make me comfortable, which I think all of us can kind of think about when you get to your home at night. What is it you do? What are the rituals you've created for yourself? I think those are important things.
Yeah. So what is, do you think about the small change in your world? What is your ritual? What is your comfort?
My ritual is everything I just said to you, that when I come home, I usually put on jazz. I will sit every single day and put on the kitchen timer for a half an hour and read trash because I love it. Because I don't admit it, but I do love it. And so I allow myself, apart from a clinical reading or apart from something that has to do with poetry, I will read. I stayed up one night, all night, reading Bonnie Garmus' Lessons in Chemistry. And that is not trash. That is just a good read. So I think it's how you construct your day, how you construct the time where you are being good to oneself. That to me is important.
I think so many people don't feel they deserve that, Jane. How can we help people recognize they deserve to be good to themselves?
You're going to put a Post-it on your bathroom mirror that's going to say, I deserve respect. I'm a capable, competent woman. I love myself. I'm going to be greeted with kindness today. I'm going to be generous to other people today. I'm going to give of myself. And there will be another Post-it that will say, today I'm going to make it a point to laugh. So I would have my bathroom mirror.
You're not going to see yourself, Jane.
No, I would take them apart. But I would want to be reminded that there is good in the world, and I'm going to look for it and find it.
Yeah. I think that's so important, because there is, and that's what the I am is saying is just look around and you will be amazed. You'll be amazed as you look again at who we are and why we do what we do. Look again, look, respect. I do think that laughing is important. Mark, I don't know about you, but I know that whenever Mark and I are together, we find something to laugh about. Wouldn't you say that laughing is huge?
It's the best medicine available, I think.
Yeah. And that's no joke. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. But that sort of gets to the second truth of the I am, is that everyone's got one. Everyone is interested through their IC domain, what you think or feel about them. And you know it has a huge effect on your biological domain when you feel respected or disrespected. So you're part of someone's home or social domain. So the second truth of the I am, you control no one, you influence everyone. You get to choose the kind of influence you want to be. Jane Seskin, author, therapist, healer. What kind of influence do you want to be?
I want to be someone who says thank you to everyone I meet in the day. Thank you for serving me this wonderful food. Thank you for wearing a fabulous blouse. Thank you for being kind to me today. Thank you for saying what you just said. It was important. I see you. This goes along with what we were talking about with respect. I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Your life is important, and you have graced mine. And so I thank you for that.
Yeah. 90% of the time in our culture, when somebody says thank you, what does the other person say in response? You're welcome. Right?
Or something like no worries, which I still don't understand.
I don't understand that one either. But you're welcome means you're part of my group. And it's interesting because I'm very honored to say that I posted a blog a couple of weeks ago on Psychology Today, the two most important words to say in a relationship. And it is thank you. And the blog has over close to 170,000 reads.
Oh, stop it. Wow.
So I could not agree more that those words, thank you, because what is it doing? It's not, I love you. Say I love you as much as you can. But I love you is talking about your feelings about someone else. But thank you is an acknowledgement of somebody else's value. And that's what we all want. We all want to feel valued by someone else. And the I am is saying every time you remind someone of their value, you increase your own value. How can we older, wiser, shorter people help the world, reminding them of their value? What do you think, Jane? Because certainly your poetry is wonderful and there's so much value in it. But how do we do that?
I think we do it by being conscious, staying mindful, and being in the moment. That when something happens, I like to address it. I don't like to hold on to anger. I don't think it is helpful to me or to other. So I really would like to go to bed in my head. And that means I've taken care of what I get that day. I've sent a thank you note. I have said to someone, you're being rude. I have said to someone, you're not being kind. I have no problem saying those things. And I also say what you just said. I love you. I thank you. I am grateful. I am grateful for your time with me as I am tonight.
Jane, how do we find the book? Older.
Amazon bookshop. Oh my, it's large. Looks large. Go on Amazon and order it, write a review. Enjoy it. Hopefully there will be something there that will speak to you. That would be lovely. That would be lovely if it did.
Yeah, folks, you can find it on Amazon. Older, Wiser, Shorter: The Truth and Humor of Life After 65. But it's an insight into who we are much, much younger than 65. We've got about a minute left, but I'm curious, Jane, would you have been able to say these things to somebody else, like you're being rude or whatever it was, when you were 25? Or is it part of something that we learned that, just curious what you think in our last minute.
I think that I could say those things when I was younger because I met my husband on a picket line. I think so. That's who I was. And then I think that I have grown into my expertise. I have grown into myself, and I have had wonderful older people in my life. I would say everyone should have older people in their life and younger people in their life. Have a mixed variety of people who will just love you.
Yeah, and accept you for who you are.
Yes.
That's how you am.
Yes.
Older, Wiser, Shorter: The Truth and Humor of Life After 65, poems by Jane Seskin. Once you go there, you can find all of our other books. Jane, thank you so much for being a guest tonight on Me and Dr. Joe. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Thanks, audience. September 12th. See you there.